Hello, hello. I'm live. So excited to be live with you today. If you can hear me, please type in the chat where you are joining from. I see 3 people have joined already. So let's check out the comments. All right, where are you joining from? What are you excited to learn about my experience? Living in France for 8 years. Let me know in the comments. Okay. I am really excited to be here with you today. I usually have a recorded video, but because my schedule was really hectic over the last couple of weeks, I was in Avignon with my Carefree Expat Incubator group. I was not able to do a recorded video, and so that is why I'm live today. But I love engaging with you and answering your questions. And so there will be questions answered. If you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat, put a Q in front of them so that I can make sure I cover all of the questions. Really, today it's about what life is like living in France once the newness wears off. And I've been in France, January will be 8 years, 8 whole years already. And I have had some really good experiences. I've struggled with some things. And I just wanted to, share those things with you because if you're looking to make a move abroad, if you're already abroad, or you're just not really sure whether it's right for you, I'm gonna share some of the ins and outs of that. All right. So who do we have joining us? JK Jarvis is in Perpignan for the next 2 weeks. Wonderful. You're in my neck of the woods. Wonderful, wonderful. Cynthia says hello and hi, Dion. So good to see you. Yes, we missed you in Avignon this year, but hopefully you'll be able to join us for our summit next year. Dion is a member of the Carefree Expat Incubator Program, which is one of the programs that I offer. My name is Patricia Brooks, and as I said, almost 8 years ago, I moved to France, and it was a sabbatical to start out with. A 2.5 year sabbatical. And it was a longer sabbatical than necessary because I was afraid to start my business here in France. But I did, and that is, that's what I do now. And I have this YouTube channel where I talk about my life in France, moving abroad, and really digging down and finding that determination so that you can live the kind of life you know you were meant to live. And today I'm going to be talking about what things were easy when I moved abroad, what things were hard but got easier, and what things I still find challenging. All right, and I'm gonna answer your questions. So, like I said, be sure to drop them in the chat. We got Igami. Greetings, excited to learn about the beauty, the food, the fun, the romanticized lifestyle, the perfumes, and social life. Okay, wonderful. Building a business, becoming fluent. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to dig in. I'm going to dig in. So I'm going to start off with the things that felt easy to me when I moved to France. Now, this surprised me because when I went to university as a freshman, I struggled with homesickness. I just wanted to be back at home with my old friends, with my family, and it was really rough. But when I moved to France, I did not experience any homesickness. It felt right. It felt like this was where I was meant to be, and thoughts of the United States or friends back at home, I had thoughts of them, but I would just, reach out to them on WhatsApp, or sometimes we'd Zoom. And it was not that really sick feeling like, oh, I just want to be home. None of that. So that was easy, making the move to France. Really, really easy. And some people ask me, you know, what is it like for me as a Black woman here in France? Do I feel like I experienced microaggressions or that, it's just, there's an undercurrent of tension because of my race. And I have to say, I haven't had any of that. In fact, it was the opposite. Feeling here, getting here made me feel, I don't know, I felt at ease and at peace automatically, instantly. So that felt easy as well from the start. What else? Oh, some people ask me, oh, is it really that hard to get a bank account? And I know some people struggle and struggle and struggle with this. I did not find it particularly difficult. I did not come with the idea that I thought it would be difficult, and it wasn't. But one of the things that I think made it easier for me, or two of the things that made it easier for me, were one, my landlord. He vouched for me. He allowed me to, he gave me a copy of his identity card, and that helped ease the way. But also, I was in school to learn French. And the administrative assistant there had a connection at one of the banks, and so she set up an appointment with the banker there for me. And so that kind of eased the way for me to get a bank account without, a lot of stress and strain. Although I know this is something that not everybody experiences ease with. So I guess I am just one of the lucky ones. All right. Yeah, I think that those are the things that felt easy or easy to me, as going into my life in France. Now, moving abroad is not an easy endeavor, and so you'll notice that the list of things that felt easy. Or do I have other things that felt easy? Yeah, the list of things that felt easy is kind of small. The list of things that I struggled with and struggle with less now, or don't struggle with at all now, is really, really kind of big. And that's what I'm going to dig into next. But I've got a question for you. What do you anticipate if you're planning a move abroad? What do you anticipate will be the hardest part for you? Let me know in the comments. Let's see who else we've got here. Oh, hi, Samantha. How was your trip? Let me know how your trip was to, I think you were in Paris recently. All right. Okay. So on to the things that I struggled with, but don't anymore, don't struggle with that much anymore. And as I said, if you've got questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. Show that. All right. So initially, when I moved to France, I'd studied French using the Pimsleur method on my own. It was a 30-minute lesson. I listened to it on my daily walk. I repeated the prompts. And so I felt like I had a solid base of the language. I could understand slow spoken French. I could say, basic phrases and get by in theory. Because when I actually moved to France, when I was so out of my element and everything was new and fear set in, I couldn't think clearly. So I couldn't access everything that I had learned over the couple of years that I had studied it before moving to France. And so that was one thing that I struggled with, being in a situation, could be like an everyday situation I might have in the United States of being at a pharmacy, or, going to the bank, or, getting on a bus. But I would just, and I know the words, or maybe even have prepared for the situation, and just kind of freeze or say the wrong word. And made me feel really stupid, because I'm like, I've been studying this for so long and I still can't say these basic things. So I think that's just a normal part of the process, that when you continue to work with the language, when you continue to speak it and listen to it, and just be around it, and to be in that new culture, that starts to get easier. Then that brain freeze, that fear that comes along when you need to speak, will lessen. and you'll be able to think more clearly. That has been the case for me. It just took a while. I think wasn't until, I guess it was, maybe a year in, 18 months in. 18 months in was when I started to feel like, oh, okay, I can relax when I need to communicate in French. And so it just takes time. Time and practice, because you can have time, but if you don't practice, it's not going to get easier. So you have to kind of go through that hard part to get to the good part. All right. Let's see. So the language initially was a challenge for me, and it became less so at 18 months in. I think I've shared this story a number of times about having that conversation with the car insurance agent on the phone and being able to be understood and to understand a kind of complex situation. That kind of boosted my confidence, and that allowed me to really just feel better about it. I think a next step for me to feel really good about my French was after taking the DELF exam back in March, and that boosted my confidence a whole lot. Even it opened me up to speak more fluidly. And even though I knew I was making mistakes, it just was like, oh yeah, this is more natural to me. So language. Now, if you're looking to learn a new language, Pimsleur, I shared, that's how I started learning. That's a great way to do that. And yeah, I have a link to that, a link for that if you're interested in learning more, and I can drop that in the chat for you. A lot of people ask me, oh, how did you learn French? How did you learn French? It was Pimsleur method initially. Then I took a class at a school at Perpignan. And then, it was watching, French TV shows and, forcing myself to not be around too many English speakers because I didn't want to not practice while I was in France. So this link here, let me label this so you know what it is the Pimsleur method link. How are you learning? If you're moving to France, how are you learning French, or how are you learning the language of your new country? Let me know that in the comments. All right. So, language was hard in the beginning. Now it's much easier. Oh, when I was invited to lunches or dinners at friends' houses early on, that was something that I just did not have the attention span for. Long conversations in French would really tire me out, wear me out. And now, I can hang with the toughest French person, the person who has a long attention span. And I noticed this being true as well when I was going to Weight Watcher meetings in France. In the United States, a Weight Watcher meeting is 30 minutes. You get in, you get out. Well, the first Weight Watcher meeting I went to in France, at 30 minutes, I'm looking at my watch, and they're not getting ready to stop at all. They're just getting started. Weight Watcher meeting here is an hour. And so that attention span was something that I struggled with in the beginning, but now I think partially because when you're speaking in a foreign language, it takes a lot of brain energy and it's tiring. I remember my first year or so, just at the end of the day, just being really, really tired and feeling my brain feeling like it was tired. So if you're in that space now and you're feeling that, know that that's something that you can move through. It doesn't last forever. Okay. All right. So other cultural differences that felt hard in the beginning were like going to a restaurant and not having to ask for the check, right? Sitting and waiting for the check to come and it never coming, and not realizing, oh, I have to ask for it. They're going to allow me to enjoy my meal, enjoy time with the people that I'm with, and they're not going to bug me about the check. I'm going to be the one that needs to do that. So that was something in the beginning that was, something that was different for me and didn't really feel that comfortable. When I went back to the States in a year and a half ago, I had a lunch with a couple of friends, and I was surprised. I had shifted. I was surprised that they brought the food and they plopped the check down right next to the plate, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, that felt jarring. So definitely, there's been a shift in how I see that, and how I interact at restaurants. So that is something that is much, much easier. Let's see what we got going in the chat here. All right. Let's see. Okay, Annette from New Orleans has joined. Welcome. Okay. Got a question here from JK Jarvis. I need help. Do you know of expats that are willing to guide me through this? I thought I was ready, but I didn't anticipate this stuff. I'm not sure what this stuff is. I'm not, and if you feel free to be a little bit more explicit in what you're experiencing because you're in Perpignan, because we can maybe talk through some of that here. If not, as you talk about guide me through, is it a more logistical thing that you're struggling with, or is it, more of the mental and emotional things that kind of feel hard for you? Because that's I as a coach, that's what I typically focus on is, building the mindset, building up the confidence and courage, the resilience, to do the hard parts, get through the things that I'm talking about now that feel like struggle, and knowing at the other side of that, there's going to be more ease or less stress around, the things that you do that seem to be normal everyday things, but take twice as long, or you're banging your head up against the wall because it doesn't seem to come as easily as it did for you in your current country. So if you're interested, I do offer a complimentary session where we can talk through what you're struggling with, and how I might be able to help. And so I will put a link to that in the chat as well. JK, let me do this right now. Let's do this. Okay. All right, so I just put that in the chat. All right, so let's see what else we got going on, and then I'm going to get back to my list because I want to make sure I get through everything. All right, Samantha Jacobs is giving me an update. Samantha, her trip to France was amazing. French family took me in for several days in Lyon. Oh, that's lovely. See, people think that, French people aren't warm and welcoming. Sometimes, there's a cooler, more reserved aspect, but sometimes, they're warm and welcoming as well. It was a blessing. I'm more solid in moving to France. Traveled through Vienna. Enjoyed the town. I'm not familiar with that town, but I'm so glad that you had a wonderful trip, Samantha. All right. Let me think about this question. It got me. I'm gonna get to your question in a minute. All right. So what else did I struggle with in the beginning, but now feels easier for me, or that I don't struggle with at all? In the beginning, I had A lot of self-doubt. So I said that what was easy for me was when I landed in France, it felt good to me. It felt like home. I felt like I belonged here. I didn't have homesickness. However, after I was here for about 2 weeks, I experienced severe self-doubt. Now, not self-doubt that France was right for me, self-doubt in the fact that I had quit my job, a good paying job, that I was living off of savings, that I didn't have a plan for my next professional move. And I think a big reason that I had this so severely was because I'd always remembered hearing my mom say, "A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush." You don't quit a job unless you have one at the ready, right? And I did that. That's what I did. I just kind of threw caution to the wind. Well, not really, because I did plan and I did have savings enough to support me for a couple of years. But it still felt like, ooh, maybe I made a big mistake. And so that really felt hard in the beginning, that self-doubt. Oh, did I do the right thing? Am I gonna regret having done this? Am I going to end up destitute? Those were all of the thoughts and emotions that I was experiencing in the beginning in that first year, probably the first 7 or 8 months. And I knew that's not how I wanted to feel. And so it was this juggling act or this tug of war where I would feel that and tell myself, Patricia, this is not how you want to experience your first year in France. And I'd have to swat those thoughts away and they'd come back with a vengeance and I have to swat them away again. And so that really felt like struggle. I think that went away. Into my second year, when I got my second visa approved, I started to kind of relax into it a little bit more. When I got my car and I got my driver's license, I started to feel like, oh, I'm putting down roots here. This is going to work out for me. That's when a lot of that doubt started to go away. And then when I started my business, I did still have doubts too. Is anybody going to, sign up, to work with me as a coach? All of those things were strong in the first year, and after I got my visa, my business visa, uh, approved for a second year, and I got 4 years, without having to apply for another visa, then I could really just say, let that doubt just evaporate. So now, yes, there are times when things are hard, when I think, oh, is this business really going to work out for me or continue to work out for me? But it's not the doubt. It's a flicker, right? It's not something that is long lasting. So I feel really, really relieved that that's gone, right? So that self doubt was hard in the beginning, and now even if there's a flicker of it, it's gone away. And I think that has come with time and with seeing that, oh yes, I'm making progress. I've put down roots. This is home for me. All right. Another thing that I thought was hard in the beginning was not about necessarily being accepted as a Black person in France, because I didn't feel that, but it was who I was or who I had been trained to be as a Black person in the United States. So, and having a knee-jerk reaction when a situation felt rude or when somebody maybe cut in line in front of me, right? And it'd been my knee-jerk reaction to always just go to, oh, they did that because I'm Black. And so one day, I was at the market, the Saturday market. A woman cut in line in front of me at a flower stand. And the vendor, I don't know if he didn't see me, I think he saw me. He waited on her. And that was where I went. And this was early on. This was a year and a half, maybe 2 years in. And that's where my mind went. And I caught myself because I recognized that a lot of times we can have an experience that this goes into coaching, and I'm not going to get too much into that, but sometimes we we make an assumption, we read something into a behavior that may be the situation and may be the reason why that situation happened, but it might have nothing to do with it. And if I read into it, oh, it was because I was Black, then that experience would haunt me. And so I had to learn to not necessarily jump to that conclusion. And it was hard to kind of break that, because that's what's been ingrained in me. So that was hard. That now has pretty much gone away. So I'm happy to say, right? And I feel like I don't feel like I'm discriminated against as a Black American. I feel like there is definitely a difference. A friend who is from Mali, and his experience has been different. But as a Black American, I feel like I haven't had situations where I felt like, oh yes, I'm being discriminated against. And I think the thing here with that is, I'm more different because I'm an American. I'm not a French citizen, but not necessarily because of my skin color, if that makes sense. That is kind of like a delineating line, more so than my race. All right, so I've talked about the social and cultural differences, language being hard in the beginning, self-doubt, fitting in, and the knee-jerk reaction, and my identity as a Black person in the States, and that bringing that over, and not wanting to have that influence my experience here. That felt hard. Let's see what other questions we've got in the chat, because looks like they're filling up here. How did I find an apartment? I did not go through the normal dossier procedure. I rented a vacation rental by owner in my first year, and asked for a reduced rate for a long-term stay, and that worked out well. When I moved to the village I'm in now, I asked for a similar thing, and that's where I am to this day. So I've never had to go through the dossier process of getting a guarantor and building a dossier and hoping that somebody picks my application. Like in bigger cities like Paris and Nice, I know that finding an apartment can be challenging. And I know some women in my program who have used a service or services to get apartments, and they've been satisfied. I think two of them have used Adrian Leeds. So, and there, I know that Jeff the expat, I don't know if you follow him, he when he moved to Perpignan, he used a woman named Valerie. I think her name is Valerie Jenkins. I don't have the link or her email, but that is a good, I think, resource if you're moving to the Perpignan area. Okay. All right. So let's see what else we've got here. Igami asks, are there some examples of French etiquette that you really enjoy or now appreciate? I do like the politeness of, if you're getting on a bus or getting off when you're getting off a bus, people saying, merci, monsieur. That to me feels really nice. I'm still getting used to the idea of sitting in a doctor's office waiting room and just sitting there minding my business and having people just come in and saying bonjour, right? That to me is not, a natural thing, but I like it. I think it's really nice. I do enjoy, as I said, the, not being able to enjoy my meal and not feeling rushed to have to leave. What else? What are the other French etiquette that I really enjoy or appreciate now? I have to think about if there are other things that are deeper than that. I think, one of the things that can be challenging is, being an American, somebody who is maybe louder when they speak. and being around people who are more quiet and kind of feeling like I stand out there. Um, but I think that that's it for now. If I think of anything else that got me, I will chime in. Which registry? Um, JK Jarvis, not being able to sign in for the registry. Which registry? Oh, and opening a bank account for you has been challenging. So are you here on a scouting trip? Can you help me understand what your situation is? All right. Okay. Dion says, I imagine there could be a loneliness factor that eventually sets in as a solo expat. Yes. So I was talking about what felt hard, that self doubt. Part of that self doubt, I think part of that came in because I was on my own. And it came in, a couple weeks after I'd moved, and like I was, the cloud nine feeling wore off. And it came to me like at nighttime. And in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and feel panicked, like, ooh, have I made a big mistake? And I think that there was loneliness, but I didn't experience homesickness. So like I guess there's a difference there, but um, I think that's a tough thing to go through in the beginning as well. And one of the things that I did for that, I'm an introvert, so like putting myself out there isn't the easiest thing for me to do. But I knew that going in. I knew going in that I would have to get out of my comfort zone and do things that felt challenging in terms of getting out, meeting people, making friends. And I did. I remember one of the first things I did was I went to a laughter yoga class. I didn't know what laughter yoga was at all, but I was like, "Oh, I like to laugh. Okay, this looks interesting." And so I went, and I became friends with a facilitator, and it was a weird experience. It was a surreal experience. It was about 3 weeks into my life here in France, and so I got on the bus. I found this out of the way place. There's a group of maybe 6 or 7 of us, and she's instructing us all in French to do these things that let pretend that you're jumping into a puddle of water like a child would, and then just laugh uproariously, right? And look at each other in the eyes as you're doing it. It was just kind of this really strange thing, but I liked it. And I guess 8 or 9 months later, she gave a class to become a facilitator. And so I took that and I got my certification. That was one of the things I did, but I really had to put myself out there. Last month, I did a Women Rising Roundtable. Women Rising Roundtable is for women who would like to develop and grow personally. And I did a roundtable about how to build friendships and deepen connections. And it was sold out, and it was a really good roundtable in discussing things like being an introvert and how do you work through that, how do you put yourself out there, what are some of the things you can do even before you make a move abroad that will allow you to be able to do this hard thing in a place that where you feel like you're out of your element. And I'm going to be actually doing another session of that. I think I'm going to do that in November, so if you're interested in that, look for details. You can get on my mailing list if you're not already. Um, and I will tell you how to get on that wait list in a minute. Okay. So there's that. But loneliness, yes. Good point, Dion. All right. Sophie Love. Hi, Sophie Love. Was purchasing a vehicle difficult? It wasn't. I was, for me, it was difficult. I made it difficult, right? It was one of those things that knew that I would do. My first year in Perpignan, I was in a city. I didn't need a car, so I didn't do it. I didn't get a car my first year. Then in my second year, I'm in a smaller village and I'm still riding the bus. It's not as convenient. I'm, walking long distances to get to the Lidl, you know, 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back. And if you're carrying groceries, that's not that convenient. And I put it off and I put it off. And so it was hard in that respect because I was afraid to do it. But I had a friend come visit me in October, I think, of my second year, and she rented a car. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like the freedom to go when you want to go. I like being able to see the landscape from a lower perspective, not on the bus. And so that's what really kind of made me feel like, okay, I got to figure this thing out. I thought it might be hard to get car insurance. That was the thing that I thought would be hard. But I went to Perpignan, got on the bus, went to Perpignan, went to a dealership and said, okay, I need help figuring this out. They're like, and I want to buy a used car. Oh, well, you're in the new car section, but if you go over to this building, they'll help you there. And it was like the universe was on my side because there was a used car salesman who had lived in Miami. So his English was really pretty good. So we spoke about that. He had a car insurance agent, an insurance agent that he recommended. And that's the person who I spoke to, all in French, to kind of figure things out. But it really wasn't that hard. So to answer your question. All right. Hi, Tina S. Thank you. Thank you. I've been watching you for a couple of years, and I just want to say hi. Stay amazing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm retiring in 5 years and thinking about moving. I'm moving to Germany. I'll keep in touch for now on. Okay. All right. Yes, I have Germany. I work with people who are, moving, places in Europe just because some places are more similar than others. And I do actually have a member of my program who is living in Berlin these days. And and she actually just got residency, permanent residency there. So she was on cloud nine. So all right. Let's see what we got here. Nubianet. I have noticed in France the discomfort of possibly dealing with an English speaker may cause a delay or rejection of people. Even this is rare. I think, yeah. So just like somebody who doesn't speak French and who is in a French-speaking country may be hesitant or reticent to speak up. And I'll talk about this in a minute too, is about how when we speak a different language, we can have a different personality or different kind of identity. Somebody who may speak English or may speak a little bit of English, but doesn't get a lot of practice, may feel intimidated or not afraid, but just not really that happy to have to speak English, and so maybe avoid it. So I think that's a good point. I think one of the things to do is just work to learn a few words and phrases, let them know that you're attempting, and that definitely goes a long way. Let's see. Let me make sure, because we're 40 minutes in, I want to make sure I cover everything. Oh, the last thing I want to cover on things that I struggled with, but I don't anymore, is driving in France. In the beginning, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Because, well, in my opinion, or in my experience, many French people, not all, will drive fast. And, that to me, that was stressful. The roundabouts, the circles they have here, there are a lot. And that was not something I was used to navigating. And I think it was one video, it was a ride along video. One of my viewers mentioned, and maybe I was talking about, what feels easy now. She had mentioned like, yeah, but you're getting really good at, driving taking those circles. So that is something that was really hard. And the fact that, there's this law, this of priority to the right. So you could be on what seems like a main road, but if somebody's coming from a street on the right and they don't have a stop sign or a yield sign, they have the right of way. And that was kind of really jarring because it's not something that I grew up driving around. And so that was a big adjustment. Narrow roads, and windy roads, because I'm not necessarily in the mountains. Sometimes I'll go, to a couple of towns over, and the roads can be windy. And I think initially I was afraid of getting a ticket. Right here, I'm in France. I'm a visitor here, and I was like, oh, I don't want to make a mistake, and so I'm gripping the wheel. I'm going slow. All of that, and then the other thing that really was startling in the beginning. It's I expect it now, is how the motorcycles will weave in and out, just and they'll be, I'll be driving, I'm not thinking, and they'll come up very fast behind, and all of a sudden they're there and they're right next to me, and it was really jarring. Now, okay, I know that's going to be the way it is, and so I have relaxed a lot behind the wheel. So that was really hard in the beginning, and now it's not. Okay. Anything surprise you about the things I struggled with in the beginning and that I don't struggle with now? In the comments. All right, moving on to things that are still hard, or that I still struggle with, at least a little bit. Taxes. So as an American citizen, I have to file my U.S. tax return. And so that's due April 15th, or maybe it's due in the month of May, but I try to get it in April 15th. And I use my expat taxes. It's a tax service, online tax service. I actually did a live stream with Natalie, the founder of that, and she lives in Austria, and she recognized that, oh, wait a minute, like taxes are different. I can't just, using TurboTax, there are some things that it might miss. And so she decided she was going to develop this software. And that's what I use to file my taxes. Okay, that's a side note. But so I have to do that. And then come like May 1st, I have to submit my French tax declaration. And for the first few years, I hired somebody to help me. She was very expensive. And so this year I'm like, I got it. Yeah, I can't continue to pay this amount of money. How hard can it be? And so I did my French tax declaration on my own. Actually went to the tax office because there were a lot of questions I had, but I went through it the best I could, and I made notes of where I had questions, and they were very helpful. So I submitted that for the May deadline, and then, June, July, August go by, and then September, either you get something saying you owe and you don't think you do, which was the case, the first couple of times, and then they figured things out. I was able to send a little notice because my French tax person said, oh, no, you don't owe. This is what you need to tell them. But this year I owed. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I made a mistake. And I went to the tax office, and they're really pleasant there. And I said, well, the last couple of times when I didn't know that it was this reason, and they looked at the reason, that the problem I had before, and like, oh, no, it's just because you earn more, right? It's because you earn more. And so taxes, they still feel hard. I think they'll always feel hard. I think you know, there is a cultural coolness that I'm still not quite used to. And not this is not everybody. Like I can go into, a place of business. I recently felt this in two doctors' offices or two medical offices. Um, at one was at a lab where I had to have my blood drawn, and the person drawing my blood was really pleasant, but the receptionist kind of just felt cool. It wasn't like a warm welcoming. Oh, we're so glad you're here, right? Which is something I'm used to from the United States. And also an imaging center. It was just kind of really cool, and it still felt jarring. Like I said, I'm almost 8 years in, and that still felt like ooh. It felt I want to say rude. I know it wasn't a rudeness. I just think it's just a cultural difference, but that still feels hard from time to time. Um, I think personal space issue is something that is not the way, like it's so much better than it was, right? Like in the beginning, it really set me off. Now, like if I'm walking down the street and somebody's walking in the other direction, or maybe there are a couple people and the sidewalks are really small here, typically they don't move. And in the beginning, like when I first got here, I was always the one to jump out of the way, right? And I noticed this last week. I was in Avignon with some members of my Carefree Expat Incubator program, who a few of whom still live in the United States. And I noticed that person doing exactly what I had done before. And now I have gotten to a place where I kind of stand my ground. I still don't want to bump into somebody. I feel like that's really into my personal space, but I deal with it. In line at the grocery store is another thing that while I'm much better at it, it still registers in my mind that, oh yeah, you're in my personal space. And I think that's just something that I will carry with me. I, have to take deep breaths and that helps me. But I think that may be something that I carry with me. And that may just be something that lasts. All right. Um, and I think, and this maybe this should have gone on what doesn't feel so hard anymore, is who I am when I speak French. Like in the beginning, I couldn't think clearly, as I said. In the middle part, I started to find my voice and ask for things that I might have just said, oh, well, they don't, I don't see it in the store. I'm not going to ask for it. And now I will definitely ask for it. It's not a hard thing. And now, so yeah, I think this definitely should have gone in the other section. And now, like I'm even, finding my sense of humor in French. And I think that, has to do a lot with um, my just being here longer, just getting a good handle of the language. And, there's an element that I think I bring to a lot of things I do that just makes things easier. And I talk about this as being a competitive advantage, for me, of being able to um, trust, right? Being able to trust and know that things are going to be okay. And that kind of allows me to relax in to a situation, in speaking French, in being in challenging situations like, meeting new people and just being in challenge, different situations. So definitely something that is easier for me now. So I think on the things I still struggle with, oh, here's one I didn't say. It's a seasonal rhythm. So like in the summertime, it stays light until 10 o'clock at night, right? And sometimes, I go to bed early, right? I'm not a party animal. So that kind of feels like, oh, it's too early to go to bed. But when in reality, it really isn't. And on the flip side of that, these days in autumn, like at 8 o'clock in the morning, the sun is just rising. And where I'm from in the United States, um, the sunrise is about a whole hour earlier, right? And so it just feels weird to be, and I wake up with the sun. I don't set an alarm. So it feels really weird. In my first couple of years, the first year, I didn't realize that was the case. And I thought, oh, Patricia, you're getting lazy. The second year, I'm like, wait a minute, what time does the sun rise in Richmond? Oh, it's a whole hour earlier. No wonder why I feel lazy. And now it's still, I don't feel lazy, but it still feels odd that that is that the sun rises so late here, just during this time of year. Um, and I think another thing that I still find hard is the daylight savings time because I work with people who are in the United States, and because daylight savings time is a different weekend than it is for people in the United States, that I have to pay a lot of attention during the time change weeks, so that I don't miss appointments. That still feels hard. All right, so those are the things that I think I've been through everything that felt easy, that I struggled with, but no longer feel hard, and that still feel hard. All right, let me get back to the comments because it looks like there are a lot here. All right, so this is a comment, not a question. Annette B. I'm retired and ready to move, but I have one thing holding me back, my fear of leaving my adult children. They both live away from me, but moving across the Atlantic seems seems too far. Looks like the comment got cut off. Yeah, leaving family is a big challenge, and there, sometimes people, have the idea that, well, I at least want to make the move for a year to see what it's like, um, and sometimes that's the case. It's just a year. Sometimes people decide, oh yeah, I really like this, and there are ways for me to stay close to my family, even though I'm not close physically. Setting a plan to, okay, so I'm not going to be, and you say they live away from you, so I don't know how far away they live from you, but setting a plan of, okay, we're going to talk, twice a week, or we're going to Zoom, twice a month, or whatever, or once a week, whatever that looks like for you. But including them in the plan so that you feel like it's connected, and then there's always visiting, going back or having them come to visit you. So I know it gets tricky too when when grandchildren come into the picture, because missing out on those moments can be really challenging. But people do it, and I think one of the things that, Annette, that could help you to work through that is and really getting a clear understanding of what your why is for wanting to move abroad, right? What is that burning desire that makes you want to do this thing? And looking at that and saying, well, if I don't scratch this itch, if I don't do this thing and experience this thing for the reason that I have, am I going to have regrets? And if the answer is, yeah, I'm going to have regrets, then working through that with somebody like me, a coach, could be helpful so that you can, understand, well, really what's at play? What is it? What is the fear really about? Right? Because sometimes we think it's one thing and it's something else. And once we know, oh, it's a fear of this, then you can address that fear. You can work through that fear. So hopefully that's helpful in that. And I already dropped a link to a complimentary discovery call. So if that's something you'd like to speak to me about and see how I might be able to help, I'd love to have a conversation. Oh, here's the rest of your comment. It's irrational. Okay, it's irrational, but you still have it, right? And it still can hold you back. So, irrational or not, all right, getting to the bottom of it is important. All right. Oh, okay. JK has a 1-year visa. Okay, well, wonderful. Congratulations. That's just me. But you're gonna be in Perpignan for a couple of weeks, and then you're gonna move on. Okay, I think I have a better picture. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Okay, B has a comment. I don't know if this would be considered an etiquette, but one thing I notice is that the French are more reserved and don't open up until they know a person well, different from us, I think. I think that's um, I think that is a cultural difference, right? That's where I would classify it. And I think that's, generally speaking, that's true. I think on some occasions, maybe you'll find somebody who is a little less reserved, a French person who's less reserved, and but I think generally speaking, that's true. And I think the other piece of that, the other side of that is they may be. What I've heard French people say is, well, yeah, I was in the United States and I was, at a bar and I was talking to these people and they seemed like they were my best friends. And the next day I saw them and they acted like they didn't know me, right? And so there's like, okay, there's how Americans are, who are just overly friendly, but they're not, right? They're not your true friends. Versus, okay, well, maybe we're a little bit more reserved in the beginning. Once we get to know you, once we want to get to know you and we get to know you, then we'll give the shirts off our backs to you, right? And so there's that difference. So definitely a cultural difference. All right. All right, here's a question from Chris. We're currently in Oakland, California, and are planning to visit next spring, summer. Do you think 2.5 months would give us a sense of what it would be like to live in France? I think that will give you a really good indication. I think, you know, you're coming during one season, so you're not going to necessarily know, what winter's like. So you won't have that. But I think if you and depending, like, I don't know if you have a particular city or a couple of cities that you plan to stay in. I think the more, if you're, I don't want to say gallivanting across France for 2.5 months, I think it might be harder to get a sense than if you're in one or two places, and that if you plan your stay where you're staying in Airbnbs or vacation rental by owners, and you're having to take out your trash and you're cooking, and you're not eating out every meal, and you're having to go to the grocery store, I think that definitely can give you a sense of um, the rhythm of life and the challenges that you might have, as moving to a different country. So I think 2.5 months is a good, will help you definitely get a sense of, oh, do I like this? Don't I like this? What might some of those challenges be that I hadn't considered, so that you can plan for them, you can work through them, or like, oh yeah, it felt harder than I thought because being away from family and friends. So how am I going to navigate that? Or, oh, I thought that my French was better than it was. I really need to, double down on that and improve. So I think 2.5 months is good, especially depending on if you're not going to be a week here, a week there, a week here, a week there, because then it's hard to get a true sense of a place, and the people. Let's see. Grateful life. Should you give yourself a couple of years to be fluent in French before you make a move abroad? Um, no. I would definitely start learning the language before you move abroad. Um, I would definitely work on your mindset, around being in a country and where it might be challenging to communicate initially if you aren't fluent. I think it's just, it takes a long time to get fluent. And I think saying you're going to get fluent, not being in a place where that speaks the language, can be even more challenging. And so you say, oh, I'm not going to move until I'm fluent. And then you say, oh, it's going to be 2 years. And then that doesn't happen. And then you kick it down the road. So that's why I kind of said, well, no, because if your why is strong enough, if you truly want to do this thing, I think, learning the language beforehand is important. I think building the skills to be able to feel dumb in situations that would normally be easy, especially when speaking a language or trying to speak a language, will help you to be more resilient as you get up to speed with the language. And I think that's my suggestion, right? You may feel more comfortable saying, okay, no, not until I'm fluent. And I think that's a personal decision, but that's not how I would do it. I would get as good as I can in those 2 years, seriously, right? Not play around, and then and work on my mindset, because I think that's the thing that can really be challenging, because you could move to France, not be fluent, and then feel so uncomfortable speaking French that you surround yourself with only English speakers or people who speak your language. And then you can be, one of those people who have lived in France for 10 years but can't speak the language, right? So um, hope that answers your question. Ah, Kim Cooper, thank you. Appreciate you. Have been reading and working on your book, Live a Bold Life. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that was, I look back at writing that book and I think, oh, that was easy. Like, I had the idea, I wrote it in a couple of months. I got an editor and got it published by the end of the year. Like, it was like, because I'm in the process of writing my third book, which is a memoir, which is it's a straight memoir. It's not, self-help. My stories mixed with self-help. And I'm telling you, I'm good though. Like, I think I have 2 more chapters to write on this third draft, and that's getting done this month. And I'm gonna go to the office supply store. I'm gonna print out a fresh copy. I'm gonna crack it open and read it cover to cover and see how it flows, see how it feels. And I am just ready. I'm so ready for this book to be done. But thank you, Kim. Cheryl says, Patricia, hi Patricia, love your content. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for joining live and for sharing that. And if you're watching, be sure to give this video, this live stream, a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm. It helps more and more people to actually see my lives, because I've got a lot of lives, but they seem not to be being seen. So the more thumbs up, the better. Thank you. Okay, Jackie Marmolejo. Um, how does it feel to come back and visit the US? Does it feel foreign now? As I said, it's been about 18 months. I guess it was it was a year and a half ago, February, that I was back in the States. And when I first moved to France, I came back every year, right? And not because I really wanted to, but the first year I renewed my visa. A couple years later, I came back to change my visa type. And it was, I was really connected with some friends, still connected with some friends, back in the States. Well, the last time I went back, it did feel different to me. Then somebody asked me what felt more like home, the US or France. I'm like, I didn't hesitate. It was like France, right? It does feel foreign. Like, I see certain things that just can boggle my mind. Went back, and I got stranded during COVID. So, like, the kind of like the mask debate, like, and that was strange for me. Oh, going to a bank and seeing a sign on the door that says no firearms, like that was like, what? Like, where am I? Like things like that just really kind of feel odd to me. And maybe I didn't notice them before, or maybe things have changed a lot. But yeah, definitely feels more foreign. I think another thing that is strange to me is like the betting on, you know, like football games, and like, you know, the commercials about that. That seems like that has gotten way out of control too. So definitely culture shock, reverse culture shock, and coming back. All right. Okay, Cheryl, good questions. Did you have to take the test in French? You're talking about the driver's test, or did you come from a reciprocal state for the driver's license? Virginia, good old Virginia is a reciprocal state. So no, I didn't have to take the driving exam. Oof. But I believe it would be in French if I did have to take it. So I think I dodged a bullet there. It was something that, you know, if I had to do it, I would do it. But I think it's just another thing. It's kind of like there's so much that you have to adjust to and learn as you and figure out. Like you have to figure out how to starting over, right? It's starting over. And that's one thing that I did not necessarily tell myself or recognize when I did it. You know, I got my bank account, you know, when I was 18, right? I moved abroad when I was 51. You know, getting a bank account was not something that I, you know, did regularly. And then to do it in a foreign country, yeah, it was easier for me because I had a couple of connections, but it was still different, like figuring out the process. Like, and so not having to do that, that was a lifesaver. That really was. Hi, Kristen. I see. Yeah, no worries. You can always watch the replay. Ah. Another question. The handrail on the staircase behind you is so pretty. All right. So I am dog sitting, and the dog I'm sitting for is so quiet. Like the dog I usually sit for, Duncan, is a border collie and loves to play. And as soon as I get on a Zoom or a live stream, there's a bark. There's like, play with me, play with me. I don't even know where my charge is now. So yes. Well, thank you for saying that. All right. Ah, thank you, Kristen, for bringing this up. So on Saturday, question is, do you still have room in Saturday's Women Rising Roundtable? I think there are about 4 slots left. So on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, I am hosting another Women Rising Roundtable. Women Rising Roundtable are for women who are ready to grow personally, who want to connect with other like-minded women on a certain topic. And it is a working session. We journal, we discuss a certain topic. And Saturday's topic is discover your superpower and live with more ease and flow. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I have a certain skill set of organizing, of summarizing, of putting into words complex issues, and that helps me with my coaching. But it's also helped me in my project management career. But when I started to bring in an element that wasn't that was a more of a receptive element, where I wasn't pushing and striving so hard, and I used that skill set, I found my superpower, right? And things started to flow for me. And so that is what we're going to talk about on Saturday. It's all about, okay, number one, what is your superpower? So a lot of times we do something so naturally, so easily, and we think everybody else can do this thing. And so we just discount it, we disregard it. But it's the thing that gives us an upper hand. And when we couple that with this more feminine energy of receiving versus grabbing or getting, then life opens up and starts to flow for us. And so it's a 2.5 hour session. There are, I think, 4 slots still available. It's an intimate group of maximum 9 women, and we unpack a lot. And Kristen has joined a couple, so she can share that it's a really great experience, and I learn as much from the women as they do from me. So yes, and let me put a link to the to that, where you can see more about that or register. Um, okay, I think that's the right link. I just dropped it in the chat. If you can't access it, let me know. All right. Tina S. Her why for wanting to move is being able to live close to a train station and catch a train anywhere in Europe. So it sounds like travel. You've got Wanderlust there, and being in Europe will allow you to be able to travel more easily. And I guess the question still is, why is that important to you? This is a 5 whys I do, with coaching clients. And you can do this on this one. Okay, so why is that so important? Why, drill down. Okay, why is travel so important to you? And then drill down on that next level. Why is that so important to you? And then when you get to something that really scratches or touches the essence, a core value that is really near and dear to your heart, and you look at that and you ask yourself, am I willing to live without this? Am I willing to not honor that core value in a way that my living in Europe is, because I don't want to be that far away from my adult children? Then that will help you to kind of get a sense of, whether moving abroad is really right for you. And if it is, and there's still this like, oh, and I still have this struggle, this challenge, then getting support of a coach to help you figure out, okay, well, how can I reframe this? How can I work through this? What are the things I can do to make this less stressful on us all? All right. All right, let's see. Ah, all right. Angela Sims Evans. Bonsoir, Patricia. We met with you in January this year. Today we got our visas. Congratulations. Woo-hoo-hoo. We arrived in Bordeaux early December. Congratulations. Félicitations. My husband and I have enjoyed your videos. Thanks for sharing your journey. I'm so excited for you. That is wonderful news. Thank you for sharing. What can you say about Marseille, France? So I've been to Marseille a couple of times. My first time in France, I visited Marseille. It was a really quick trip, and didn't really feel one way or the other about it. I went to Marseille when I had to pick up my passport that I had to renew, and that was a trip that I really hadn't planned on, but I tried to have it, overnighted, and that didn't work out. So my circumstances for being in Marseille were like, yeah, I don't want to be here. But the third time I was in Marseille was in 2023. And that was the first not Women Rising Roundtable, first summit of my Carefree Expat Incubator program. And I saw a different side of Marseille. I really enjoyed it. I stayed in near Old Port, and there's all the different parts of France have their own culture, but there was something special about Marseille. The culture there was eclectic, lots of different, and I guess part of it is because it's a big city, but a lot of ethnic diversity. I also just felt like the people there were just warm and friendly, right? The French people there were just warm and friendly, and that was not something that I had necessarily noticed or experienced the first couple of times I was there. Again, I think sometimes what we bring to a situation, we get that back in our experience. So, but I really enjoyed it, and I recommend if you're planning, are you planning to visit? You planning to move there? Definitely check it out. Definitely check it out. Okay, another win for the visas for Kristen Hill. Congratulations. Yes, so Dion was there about Marseille. She was there at the first our first summit, and we had a great time. A unique, gritty charm. I love the description, Dion. Exactly that. All right, let's see. All right, here's another comment about Marseille. OMG, I visited Marseille for the first time in June. So friendly, dynamic vibe. I can't wait to return to explore further. Yeah, sounds like you're getting some really good comments about Marseille. All right. So that is what I have to share. If you have any last minute questions or comments, go ahead and put them in. I will respond to the last couple. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends. As I said, Saturday we're having a Women Rising Roundtable. It's going to be amazing. I put a link to that in the chat. So if you feel inclined to discover your superpower and start to experience more ease and flow in your life, then definitely sign up. Only 4 spots left, and they will go fast. For those of you who are, already abroad and who may be struggling with the challenges of getting a bank account, or, oh, it's harder than I thought, you sign up for a complimentary discovery session. I know a lot of people I've spoken to have gotten some clarity just from that session. And sometimes people say, oh, yeah, this was really good, and I'd like to go a little bit deeper. And then that's when we can work together. And the link is in the chat as well. The Carefree Expat Incubator Program, I've spoken about that a couple of times. I've spoken about the summit we were just on. What that is my signature program. It is for women, single women, who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country, but who don't want to feel like they are making the move abroad alone. And so what this program is all about, it's about an online curriculum that helps you to build the mindset of the kind of person who is resilient and who goes from saying, if I move abroad, to when I move abroad, and has the confidence and courage to do it, but also the support of a coach and other like-minded women. People who are ideal for that are single women who are 18 months out to 2 years away from their move, because it's you have access to the program, which is the curriculum, group coaching calls twice weekly, the access to come to join us at the summit. And it really helps in developing into, so that once you make your move, you do it with a confidence. And once you get abroad, then you still have the support of the group and a coach, so that when it is harder than you anticipated, you can get on a call and say, okay, talk me off the ledge. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to my website, thecouragecatalyst.com, and click on the services page. And I'll just put my website here so you can check that out. You can check out all of the services: one-on-one coaching, information sessions. Like if you found this helpful, but you have questions that you really want to dig in about moving to France in particular, I offer a 30-minute information session, paid information session, and you can learn more about that on my website as well. That's it. All right. So thank you so much for joining me live. If you are watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And let me see. Let me make sure I didn't miss any comments. I think that's it. Well, you've had some really good questions. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. And oh, I did, one thing I did not do was to put for the building friendships roundtable that I plan to do. There is a wait list that you can get on. Let me see if I can. I think it's this. Yep. Okay. Let me put that in there too. Building friendships roundtable wait list. HTTPS. All right, and that's for the wait list. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you again next time, either in a video or on a live, or maybe on Saturday. Take care. Bye-bye.